message is titled Abundance Consciousness, and I chose this subject because we have a tremendous healing consciousness here at Unity East, and we have demonstrated and manifested health in so many ways. But the issue is that I don't think that we have such a great abundance consciousness. And I know some of you might disagree with that. Some of you might feel like you totally understand abundance and you believe in prosperity and all that. But I always say the proof is in the pudding, right? Yes? No?
Yes.
Because I think if we all had the kind of abundance consciousness that we have, healing consciousness here at Unity East, then all of us, first off, all of us, even the people that aren't here right now, would all be sitting in brand new outfits in a brand new sanctuary out there at the new campus. Don't you agree? Yes. So we have to look at this idea of how come we have such a strong healing consciousness, and how do we transform that same knowing and energy into abundance consciousness. And so that's what we're going to work on today. So I began to think about this, and I thought, if we are such powerhouses of manifestations of healing, then why aren't we demonstrating and manifesting abundance at the same level? You ever think about that? I mean, I do. I know, I don't know about you, but I'm sure some people have had something come up, a bill or something come up, some kind of expense, something that has happened to their car, something happened to their house, whatever. They thought, okay, how do I pay for this? Or how do I move through this expense? And that's what I'm talking about. If we go to that place of the same level of consciousness that we have when we talk about healing and health for each other, then we can do it when we think about abundance too. You know, I think that sometimes, you know, that I started searching my soul for the answers for this, and I think sometimes some of our embedded theology or our cultural teachings that we've had as a kid maybe have influenced how we feel about money and abundance. You know, it can keep us in bondage to those thoughts that were placed in us as we were growing up. Now, I know a lot of people were raised with the idea that they had to go to church and give the church all their money. And when they became an adult, they thought, that is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. And they quit giving and never even gave another thought to tithing to any place. And I get that. Because, you know, it could even have... Oh, somebody owes $50. Got a good song going, though. That's my little segue about your phone. And hi, Facebook fans, friends. Anyway... but maybe some of you got some guilt and shame thrown at you from a minister or pastor, you know, that you felt like you need to be giving, and, you know, then you shied away from that and said, I don't like that. For me, growing up in the Catholic Church, you know, things were pretty cool. I didn't know that my dad tithed, but I knew he did as when I got to be an adult. But what happened to me in Catholic school, when I went to Catholic school, one week they showed up with these boxes. And they were boxes for the whole year of envelopes. And they were, you know, blank, and we were supposed to fill them out. And the nun and the priest came in the classroom, and they said, okay, you have to fill these out every week, and then you have to put at least $0.25 or $1 of your allowance in the envelope. And I said, you know, I've always been bold, I'll admit that. But I raised my hand, and I said, I don't get allowance. I have 9 brothers and sisters. We don't get allowance. And the priest said, oh, you get something. And I mean, I was so embarrassed because, and kind of ashamed, you know, right there in front of my peers. I was just being honest. But I was like, well, no, I don't, you know. So what I did for the longest time is just filled out the envelopes without anything in it, kept turning in those envelopes. I'm sure he didn't like that too much, but I never heard anything about that. But still, the whole idea of giving to a church and because of those envelopes, kind of, you know, kept me from giving to any church until actually, or to any religious or spiritual organization. And it wasn't until I went to Unity Church and started learning spiritual laws and the spiritual laws of abundance and prosperity did I totally understand why I should give and how that puts me in the flow of spiritual energy. Changed everything for me, really. And Fillmore defines spiritual abundance like this. He says, Spiritual abundance is ideas in consciousness of the omnipresent supply and support of the one mind, invisible substance with infinite capacity of expansion when held in mind, affirmed and praised. All things whatsoever the Father hath are mine. John 16:15 is what he uses as a scripture. But if you look at that definition, it's very, very simple if we break it down. You know, ideas in consciousness. Yeah, what are we holding on to? What is that embedded theology or cultural lessons that are holding us back from seeing the omnipresent supply and support of the one mind, that invisible substance that is always with us, that is always here, that we can always tap into and manifest and form into substance. It's huge. And he gives us a little segue of how to find that and do that by the expansion when held in mind, affirmed and praised. How are we going to see the expansion in our mind? How are we going to affirm it? And how are we going to praise all the good that's coming forth for us? It's really huge when we think about it. But as truth students and metaphysicians, when we affirm our source and opulent supply and can affirm and declare that we have all the money and all that we need, all things that are good will come forth for us. They really will. But we have to be in that frame of mind. The metaphysician is the person who sees beyond the physical. Metaphysics, that's what we talk about in Unity. Seeing beyond the physical. Seeing beyond the clothes I have on my back right now. Seeing beyond those thoughts of lack that I have been embedded in my mind. And releasing those and seeing the omniscience of all that there is. It's a whole new thing. But any of those thoughts of lack, any of those embedded thoughts of lack, keep us in that place where we're actually, and I thought this was a cool word. Fillmore says, we become devotees of mammon. Now, most of you have heard of manna. You know, manna rained from heaven and fed the people out in the desert. But mammon is actually this little guy. This is a drawing of what mammon does to you. But it's actually the energy of that idea of covetousness. It turns you into like a little, can't think of the right word right now. Miser, yes. Holding your bags of whatever it is that you have. And you want more. You want more of someone else's more. It's a whole different thing than having spiritual laws in practice and thinking about abundance. It's so unhealthy to be in this state of mind too. But this is what thoughts of lack can take us to. I mean, this kind of is a graphic picture if you really look at the guy. I mean, you know, the uncertainty and the lack of faith you can see through the drawing. It's a very old drawing, but still. And Fillmore's used this quote, you cannot serve both God and mammon. And that's what I researched mammon and found out. But it's they call it the devil of covetousness. So if you're in that state of mind, you can't be in a state of abundance. You're living in a state of lack. And our thoughts and feelings get twisted up in this idea of mammon, of being in that place of lack. And so we have to break those thoughts and feelings down and look at it. And see, that's the thing. It's a whole different thing if we break it down and we go through and discredit anything that's not truth. If we have a thought of lack, then we have to look at what the truth is to that thought of lack. What is the truth underlying that thought of lack? I don't have enough, whatever. Oh, Google it. There's a plethora of it out there. Whatever it is you think you don't have. I mean, even if you don't understand a word, Google it and you'll see. There's so much out there to define it. And so that we have to start doing that even with our thoughts of lack, whatever it is. And then, you know, you can start thinking about how we look at healing consciousness here at Unity. You know, think about healing consciousness. We just prayed. We just prayed. We prayed for Laura. We prayed over that prayer shawl. Did you feel the energy? Yeah. And so what happens when we have that healing consciousness? What does that look like? That healing consciousness, what does it look like? It looks like something good, doesn't it? Yeah. And how do we hold health and wholeness in our minds and souls? I think we've all grown to that level that it doesn't matter. Maybe we still gasp when somebody says, oh, somebody has cancer. We still might go, oh. But in that very instant, if you take and go to truth and look at what the truth is, it's not, oh. No, you see health and wholeness for that person. You see beyond the physical. Whatever is happening for Laura is a physical condition that is not the truth of who she is. I'm using her as an example. I hope that's okay. But we just prayed for her. We prayed over that prayer shawl, and we saw health and wholeness for her. What did that do for you? Lift you to that level of consciousness, didn't it? That healing consciousness of health and wholeness. If we all went to that place during that prayer, then we were all at that level of health and wholeness. How do we transfer that energy into abundance consciousness? What does it feel like to you when we are in that prayerful state? What does it feel like? I mean, do you feel the energy and power, and do you get goosebumps? I know Georgia one time when Reverend Warren and I prayed over her, and I think Sandy and Mickey, were you up here too? I can't remember. You said you felt the energy. You felt the power. We feel that energy. We feel that power. So how do we transfer that same feeling and thoughts and power into abundance consciousness? How do we do it? We do it at the same level that we're hitting healing consciousness. That's how we do it. Well, if we can define what thoughts and feelings we experience every time we pray for a healing consciousness, then we can transfer the same thoughts and feelings and process into a state of abundance consciousness. Do you believe that?
Yes.
Yeah, it should work, right? So we have to start training ourselves to be in that same thing. When we pray over the offering, it's not just reciting that prayer up there. It's really thinking about divine love flowing through me. Think about it flowing through you. It's a whole different feeling, isn't it? Than me just saying, divine love flowing through me. Bless multiples. Right? We have to take it to that higher level of consciousness. Whatever words we're spitting out, whatever thoughts we're having, if we're trying to align with truth, we have to be at that level of truth. We can't be just like, nah, in a conversation. No, we have to take it to that level of higher consciousness. And we've all done it. We've all done it every time we do the healing prayers with everybody. Okay, let's see where I'm at. I don't even know. But one of the things we can do is study truth and look beyond what all we see on the physical level. You know, the beauty of Myrtle and Charles Fillmore's writings is that they gave us instructions, they gave us how-tos, they gave us ways to learn how to do this in our lives. Unfortunately, there's so much in their books and stuff, it's hard to kind of sort it out. I said, someday I'm just going to take all their books and pull out all the how-tos and make just a book of all the how-tos, you know, so we could just skim through the how-tos to get to where we needed to go. But the beauty of it is that they brought this to us and taught us in a way that is doable for us to do. It's kind of like the level of Jesus too, you know. I mean, Reverend Warren uses Jesus a lot and says, you know, Jesus taught us so that we can do this too. Well, Myrtle and Charles Fillmore, yeah, they're superstars. Wait, superstars, you got to do the thing down there. Superstars, but they also taught it and wrote about it in a way for us to be able to do it too, or else we wouldn't be sitting here. And they wrote this. Oh, that's really tiny. I don't know how that happened, but Fillmore wrote this in Dynamics for Living. House cleaning. Can you guys even see it back there?
Yeah.
A mental house cleaning is more necessary than a material one, for the without is but a reflection of the within. Think about those words. Whatever is going on outside of us is a reflection of what we're thinking and saying and doing from within. So if we want to see something different out here, we change what's going from the inside out. Old thoughts must be denied and the mind cleansed in preparation before the affirmative Christ consciousness can come in. You guys do a marvelous job when we pray and we lift up all the prayer shawls, or even during the prayer time, that lifting to that level of healing consciousness. I'm not sure what the magical words are that take us there, but we elevate ourselves to that level of that healing consciousness. And we can do that when we have that affirmative Christ consciousness and allow it to come in and through us. So we have to think about that in the same form as abundance. Anything having to do with money or anything having to do with abundance of what you need in life, whatever you desire, think about it from that same level. When we consistently deny the limitations of the material, we begin to reveal the spiritual law that waits within us to be fulfilled. Is that not powerful? When we consistently deny the limitations of the material. Okay, this is the body I'm in, and I might have a froggy throat right now, but it's not going to keep me down. I'm going to heal from this. I'm going to go forward. I'm going to do what I need to do, and I'm going to do it to the best of my ability. That's what we do. We see beyond whatever is going on in the physical and go forward, march forward in that truth that we know. And then what happens is it just all starts opening up. When this law is revealed to our consciousness, we begin to use it to demonstrate all things that are what? Good. Yes, that are good. And right about now you might be thinking, oh great, I have to change my mind, but what about my bills? Yeah, you know, the stack at home, depending on how big they are. But it still begins with our thoughts. And when we have debts that we have produced, they have been produced from thoughts of lack, believe it or not. Thoughts of lack, impatient desire, and greediness. That's what our bills are accumulated from, really. We want something, we want it now. We want something, let's go get it. And I'll tell you what, especially those furniture commercials on TV. You don't have to make payments until 2024. What the heck? They could go out of business before 2024. I'm thinking to myself, what is that kind of crazy thinking? And to have that hanging over your head for 4-5 years before you have to start paying for it, you're always going to know in the back of your mind, someday I got to pay for this furniture I'm sitting on. And in 5 years, it might not be the furniture you want to be sitting on, huh? It's crazy. It is. But we get into that impulsivity of what we want and what we think we need. But it's that lack that we hold on to, that we clench with our hands, that keeps us in that bondage of lack consciousness and doesn't allow us to see the abundance of all there is. Go home today, and if you turn on the TV, count how many furniture commercials are on TV right now. Why are they on right now? Because everybody's getting tax returns. That's exactly what it is. They want your money. But go home and count how many are on in one day. It's crazy. So there's abundance of furniture out there for everybody. And besides, the dump says they sell it all cheaper anyway. So, But I'm just saying. It's just like so goofy. We don't have to worry about lack of anything. But we do have to change our thinking. And the thing is that we have to do is when we realize that we are blessed with the ability to accumulate some debt or maybe use our utilities. Maybe we don't have any debt at all. Maybe we're debt free, but we still have to pay our utilities. We are blessed with the ability to have that. Whatever debts you have right now, I don't care if you have a stack of bills this high and you don't have enough every month to pay it. You're blessed to be able to have that. Because at some point in time, whatever that thing is, it blessed you. So you have to look at it as a blessing, no matter what it is. And whatever energy that you were blessed with, you have to see that same energy paying them off. Because if you come from that idea of being blessed and that you're blessed enough to be able to pay it off, guess what's going to happen? You're going to pay it off. Yeah. And you might not know how it happens, but what you're doing is switching the energy around it. So it could come with a windfall of something to be able to pay them all off, or it might just trickle in a little bit at a time. But if you look at it like a blessing, it's going to change how everything happens in your life. And what happens when we look at life as a blessing? More blessings come in, don't they? So we have to come from that place. We have to put our energy into motion by releasing any thoughts of lack and looking at abundance as a beautiful thing. Now you have to begin by by forgiving and releasing anybody that you owe money to. And you might think this is crazy talk, because if you're waiting for someone to pay you back, you might not ever get paid. Or you will get paid back in the same tone as what you are holding them in, because that's the way energy works. Think about that. We always, like, if we have loaned somebody some money, and we're sitting there, months have gone by and they've not paid us anything back, what starts happening? Our thoughts start going to that, oh, they're never going to pay me. Oh, look at them. They went out to dinner last night and they still haven't paid me. They only owe me $50. They probably spent more than that on dinner. Anybody ever go there? Or they were supposed to pay me X amount every month and they haven't paid me one thing. And you're holding them in bondage, but you know what? They don't care. You're holding yourself in bondage. That's what you're doing. You're putting yourself in that place of lack. If anybody in the world owes you anything, erase it from your mind right now. Open up that pathway of abundance to come flowing in. I'm telling you, I don't care if you think they owe you a favor. Let go of it. Release it. And tell yourself, I have been abundantly blessed by all that I have and all that I am, and I want to continue on that path. Open up the floodgates and let your blessings and good come forth. Don't clench and hold on to whatever it is you think somebody else owes you. You're just wrapping those chains around you. And we want to release that. What goes around comes around, a lot of people like to say. But, you know, who puts that all into motion? We do. What goes around comes around is from our own thought pattern. So we have to change it. Do you see what I mean? Okay. The other thing about that is that once you release them, you have to do one more thing. And you have to trust me on this. But you have to claim abundance for you, and you have to claim abundance for them. Now that's a big leap for a lot of people. But if somebody owes you, or you feel like they owe you, start seeing them in the abundant light of God. Start seeing yourself in that abundant light. And when those blessings start pouring in, know that they're pouring in for them too. Because that's what it's going to take to change the way behaviors are on this planet. I mean, whether you're talking about wars, whether you're talking about people loving each other and accepting each other for who they are, in an abundance of love coming in and through us, it's going to take that. Okay? And all we have to do is acclaim abundance. You see, abundance is already here for all of us. We just forget about it, really. We do. We put it on the back burner. We just say, oh, yeah. And if a check comes in that we don't even know about, we're like, oh, yeah, they owed me this. So that's good. I got that back, you know, a rebate from utilities or whatever. Instead of saying, oh, wow, this is a blessing. This is an abundance that I didn't even count on. But we have to, instead, we forget about it instead of staying focused on the prize that we have already been gifted. We've already been gifted so much, and we are so blessed. It is so freeing for everyone if we live in this mindset. That could kind of make you go crazy after a little bit, huh? But once we open the door and we open the door on the flow to our debts, to whatever it is that we owe somebody else or somebody owes us, we've changed the energy. You know, it's no longer like this closed off energy. It's like a flow that starts happening. And that's huge, because then we are no longer fighting against spiritual law and abundance and prosperity, but we're living in the flow of that then, which changes everything. And our thoughts get readjusted back to the truth that we know within us, that we want to express, that we are unlimited and all that is around us is unlimited. So we might be asking, what's next? I mean, what do we do after we know this? You know, we might know this truth, but how do we live it? What are we going to do? Well, we remember that we have to start thinking thoughts of abundance. Can you think thoughts of abundance? No. I love this quote from Ernest Holmes. He says, thoughts of lack manifest as limitation. Thoughts of abundance manifest as success and happiness. Failure and success are but two ends of the same stick. Which side of the stick do you want? I want abundance. And what about you?
Yes.
And through that power of the law of abundance, We can pray and know that God is going to bless us, that all that unlimited supply is going to come forth. And once we start getting in the flow of that energy and sending it out and receiving it, then it starts multiplying. We start getting it tenfold. We start having it come back. Now, it might not show up all at once, but I love this, because, and this is me. But the direction of energy will sometimes trickle in, but will always pick up a magnetic current that allows abundance to come easier and more frequently. That is why we have such great healings here at Unity East. We have built up that magnetic energy to just, if I stop right now and say, let's pray for somebody, you guys are going to go to that higher consciousness of healing, and you're going to pray for that person and feel it and know it, aren't you? And it's just like, boom, you just do it like that because you've built up that magnetic energy. People that don't know anything about Unity, when they walk in here, they walk in and they don't even know it's a church, and then I show them the sanctuary, and this happens throughout the week all the time, just somebody off the street, and I bring them in here, they'll say, oh, wow, the energy in here. But that's that higher level of consciousness that we have pushed out beyond these walls, believe it or not. It's beyond these walls. That's what attracts somebody to come walking in. That's what your friends want to know what you're doing, because they feel it from you. And if we start putting it into our abundance consciousness, oh my gosh, we're going to be like walking on air, because we will be living from that truth that we already know within us. We have picked up magnetic current of consciousness that has manifested in all of us. And believe that. Even if we're praying for somebody else's healing, it is working in and through us too at the same time. We are all being abundantly blessed in that. And we can continue to do that. You know, I used to have this thing that I would think that if I used my something good this week, that I wouldn't have that something good come to me. Anybody ever have those thoughts? Do you know what I'm talking about? Like, okay, I like to use the example of Christmas when I was a kid. You know, when we were a kid, we always got a pair of pajamas, we got one new outfit, and we'd get 1 or 2 toy things for Christmas. That's what the norm was, because, you know, 10 kids, that's what we had. So whatever that 1 or 2 toy thing was, I would like just focus in on that one thing that I really, really wanted. And if I didn't get it, I'd get so disappointed. I'd say, oh, God, I must have already used up my good. You know, I didn't get that thing because I didn't have enough good left. You know, I hadn't done enough good things to earn that or whatever. I had that thought in my head. And sometimes we think, you know, that's that lack consciousness. I mean, you're thinking, oh, they got something good, but I don't get something good. No. And so when my brothers or sisters got something that they really wanted, sometimes I'd get jealous, or I'd feel like, oh, I didn't get what I really, really wanted. You know, I'd feel sad or kind of hurt even. Probably mad sometimes too. But what happened is I thought, if I want to be miserable, then I can live like that. Or I can say, I want to be happy for them getting their good, and I can be happy. And that's what I did. But even in that, that's still not abundance consciousness. Because you're still living in lack. You're still thinking that you don't get the good. But we know how much good is out there. How much? Unlimited amount of good. So we can all have the good. It might not have been exactly what you thought in your mind for good, but you can have the good. And, you know, the thing is that we have to know we are good enough to receive this or something better no matter what. We say those statements of truth at the beginning of the service to open up our minds and hearts. And that is a place where we start clicking our consciousness into that higher level, believe it or not. Because the minute we start saying, I am a child of God, I am deserving of good, it can't help but trigger something in your mind and your soul and your heart that allows you to start opening up and lifting up to a higher consciousness. But we have to know it no matter what. That is having true faith in the law and also loving ourselves to realize we are worthy of everything good. Are you worthy of the good that wants to come to you? Yes. Are you worthy of the good that wants to come to you? Yes. Thank you. That's a little better. I want to know that you want that good to come to you. You know? And this is when the bills that come in make it easier to be paid. When we begin, and that's when we begin to dissolve our debts, is when we have that mindset. So what about the creditors? In what light are you holding them? Do you think they are out to get you? Because some people think that. Or are you fearful of them? You know, they're calling you, where's your payment? And you just ignore it, ignore it, ignore it. Try a new approach. I invite you to try this. Quit having fear about any creditor. And when you call them, you call them. You don't wait for them to call you. You call them and talk to them. You know, call them and say, hey, how's your day going? How's your family? How you doing? Well, good. Have a conversation. Because if I came up to you and just start going, I need my payment smaller, or I can't make my payment this month. I mean, doesn't that put you on the defense? But if you get in a conversation with somebody and you feel that they're trying to actually know you as a person, not just as your creditor or somebody that you don't really want to talk to, makes a huge difference, doesn't it? Try it, because it will. It will make a difference. And when you come from that mindset, you're coming from, what? A higher consciousness. You're no longer thinking of them as being the bad guy. You're no longer seeing them as a creditor. They might be in the same boat as you. They might be sitting at home with a pile of bills higher than yours and not being able to pay everything, and their job is to listen to people complain all day. Think about that. So you approach them from the same place that you would like to be approached, which is from kindness and compassion, and see how it makes a difference. When we bring love and kindness and compassion into a situation, it changes everything. Love is a catalyst for so much on a spiritual level. Believe that? I love February because it's the month of love. But we have to bless our bills. We have to love our bills. When that bill comes in the mail, don't go, oh. Go, oh, I love you. Thank you. You know, try it. It sounds goofy, but it does change your mindset. It changes how you react or respond. It changes things in your life. And who knows, you might open that up and they've paid it off or something. Some miracle could happen. But we have to see ourselves. We have to see ourselves paying off our bills with timely manner, with ease and grace. Can't get stressed out about it. You're going to get them paid in the same way you accumulated them. You'll get them paid. They will. They will get done sooner or later. But we have to see the money flowing in and through us with ease and grace. And we have to see a natural increase in our funds to be able to do that and pay it off sooner. You know? And when we do that, then we're holding on to the law of abundance. We're not holding on to the law of lack. We're throwing that to the side, and we're saying, I'm living in the law of abundance. I'm moving forth knowing that I have that higher consciousness of abundance. Changes everything. We have to remember that all debts can be paid or remedied. I mean, I've known people that have called IRS, that owed money to IRS, called them up and offered them pennies on the dollar of what they owed, and they took it. Now, that's remedying a bill. It can happen. You never know. It just depends on what happens in your life. But Fillmore wrote this, I owe no one anything but love. And he said whenever he felt a bill collector or a creditor was hounding on them, because he lived through the Depression, you know, and he created all of Unity Village without any money to start with. You know, a board member, Reverend Warren's told this story before, but a board member threw a penny down on the table as a joke and said, here, we'll start this with this. And Fillmore says, yes, that's where we'll start it, and put that penny at the center of the table. Dr. Barber's doing that with that 10 cents a day. 10 cents a day. Some people probably laughed about that. But we'll see next week how 10 cents a day manifests and demonstrates in our lives, won't we? We'll see it as it comes in. And we'll celebrate that. And we'll give thanks and we'll praise whatever it is. But our thoughts and words and actions all align with the truth that we believe. And so what are you going to believe? Do you want to believe in lack consciousness, or do you want to believe in abundance consciousness? How about abundance consciousness? If you want abundance consciousness, you're with me. If you want lack consciousness, you're without me. That's from that one movie. What was that movie? It's a football guy who...
That wasn't a football guy. It was Tom Tom Cruise.
Tom Cruise, but he was signing up the football guy.
Jerry.
Thank you.
That wasn't the same movie, sweetheart.
Oh, it wasn't?
No, but that's okay.
Oh,
Cameron Diaz.
oh, that's right. Never mind. I did have the wrong movie.
That's all right.
Anyway. But when we change our thoughts to abundance consciousness, we are ready to demonstrate and mold substance into whatever it is we desire. And here's one more how-to from Fillmore, from the Revealing Word. Steps in demonstrating abundance. First, we must recognize abundance as an idea that is real, that has the power to expand. Do you recognize abundance as a power that is real? Yes. I hope so. I really do. Then we must talk abundance, choose words representing abundance, and thus build up an invisible world of substance. And what happens when we build up an invisible world of substance? Because what is substance? God stuff. Invisible God stuff everywhere. What's going to happen? We will build or form in our mind that which draws to us an abundance of every good thing. When we start building up God stuff, then we're going to start building up good and manifest and demonstrate that in our lives and shape it whatever way we want to. It's time for us to jump out of the hole of lack that we have built around ourselves and see ourselves moving from that abundance consciousness that we have. All the giving and loving presence of the omnipresence of God is in and through us, and we can start manifesting and demonstrating that in our lives every moment of the day. When we claim our oneness and we know our oneness with God, it changes everything. And we have to see ourselves worthy of the good. And then it's time to claim that good through the idea and the knowing and the truth that we all have within us. Abundance consciousness, abundance consciousness for life. Thank you for being here today. All righty. Got some special music.